Who's that?
That must be Angel. I think.
That weird guy that wondered about all the vampires?
That's him, I'll bet you.
Well, he's buff. She never said anything about him being buff.
You think he's buff?
He's a very attractive man. How come that never came up? Oh, right. Give her your jacket. It's a balmy night. No one needs to be trading clothing out there.
So, welcome to Does Buffy Suck, the podcast where we watch episodes of Buffy and decide if it sucks. I was trying to figure out how to streamline this intro, because basically, I'm Keith, and I'm here with my friend Mike, and we've both watched Buffy since back in the day. And I'll just let you say hi, Mike, so people know your voice.
Oh, hi, Mike. Hi, Keith.
It's going great.
And then there's always the, so Rand doesn't know the show, and she's new to it. And then I guess it's Julian, where it's like every time I explain, like, well, you know, he did see some later episodes back in the day. He used to watch it with his sister. So as we get on, he'll know some of the stuff, but it's early stuff he doesn't know. But I figure at this point, just to keep it streamlined from here on in, let's just say me and Mike know the show and Rand and Julian don't know the show.
Yeah,
Sure.
I definitely agree with that, because I mean that's basically true.
Yeah.
And it just saves, like, it makes it more fun. It's like 2 people love it, 2 people are new.
I don't mind lying to the audience for the rest of this show.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, I feel like, too, since we've explained it in these early episodes, our hardcore fans, they'll know the real situation. Yeah. And then our fair weathers, who just drop in because it's like, oh, I just want to watch this episode because it's spiked as something cool. If they don't know the full truth, then they don't deserve to know the full truth.
But please still review us on iTunes.
5 stars only.
Yeah.
So I guess let's just cut right to the wheat of the episode.
The wheat? I love delicious bowls of just wheat. Just unprocessed wheat.
The main part of the meal, the wheat.
The wheat and the chaff. This is the wheat. So we're still very early on in the nascent run of Buffy. Buffy right now, it's like one of those deer that just gets born and it's taking those first uncertain steps and it's still covered in all the gross goop from its mom's deer hole. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
yeah. Deer hole.
So we had the pilot. We had the pilot that we all enjoyed quite a bit. Last episode was branching out a little into witches, which everybody was more or less okay with, but, it was just, are you afraid of the dark nonsense? And I think we're still pretty heavy into Goosebumps territory with the episode Teacher's Pet, which originally aired March 24th, 1997. And as always, I've got the top movie and the top song, so we can really bring ourselves into 1997. Top movie, I'll give you a clue. It's a Jim Carrey film. Anyone got a guess?
The Mask.
Truman Show.
Liar, liar.
Liar, liar. You got it. Bam. Nice going. And the top song, I don't know. This might be giving it away. This might be too easy, but who knows? It was 1997. It was a long time ago. It's featuring Mace.
The Liar, Liar theme song.
Jim Carrey featuring Mace.
It's Puff Daddy and Mace, right?
Yeah, it is. Can't Nobody Hold Me Down by Puff Daddy featuring Mace. So that's what was going on in the world. And a few brave souls, because I'm trying to imagine, like, I didn't get into Buffy till season 2. Maybe you watch the pilot and you're like, yeah, that's all right. Then you gotta jump that hurdle of, all right, I'm gonna watch another episode of this show. And you get the witch episode. And now we got the truly dedicated that are like, you know what? I'm gonna watch another episode. Like, I wonder how many people really were watching at this point and hadn't bailed out and didn't get into the show later. Like, I feel like anyone who saw this on its first airing, I kind of got to commend them. They were either really brave or really young.
If you're really into, like, the, Universal Monsters, classic, monster lore, the first episode, we got, like, vampires, classic. Second episode, we got witch, a staple. And then, of course, now another standard staple in horror movies is a praying mantis pretending to be a person. So
yeah, the Holy Trinity.
Just right on par.
So overdone.
I think that people weren't necessarily watching it for it being this cool sci-fi show, right? A lot of it is, and I'm sure it was positioned this way. It's a high school drama with this otherworldly stuff happening. So our tastes were not as good back then. and we didn't have as much good TV. So people just wanted to see these teenagers fuck, probably.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I figure that's probably the most likely thing is either on the one side, you're like, whoa, the Buffy and Cordelia are pretty hot. Or on the other side, Xander and Giles are kind of hot. I feel like that's the only reason anyone would be watching this.
Yeah, of the hot men on the show, it was Xander and Giles.
Oh, yeah, I guess Angel, right? I forgot about him because he wasn't in last week. I think there's a lot more Giles love than you might think. It's a lot of... I meant to look that up. I wonder how old he was at the time in 1997. Can somebody quickly look up his birth date? Because it's always so weird now that I'm an old-ass man. And I'm like, oh, geez, it's so weird to see the old man in things. And they're oftentimes younger than me. And I'm like, that's fucked up.
He's born in 1954, so he's currently 66. So back then he was 46 or something.
43.
Okay, so yeah, he's still older than me. That feels good. I'm not older than Giles yet. So I guess let's do the traditional roundtable. Julian gets to go first because he can do math. So how'd you feel about this episode?
Hey, remember how you said that, there's been some like Goosebumps kind of esque episodes of this show so far? I would have rather watched an episode of Goosebumps.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Watch
That would have been so cool.
this terrible episode of Buffy. It was just bad. Just bad.
I'm weirdly kind of glad to hear that because, yeah, it was like that you guys liked last week's or accepted it, I should say, didn't outright rebel against it. I was like, I don't even know what world I'm in anymore. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, like, I don't know what it was about this episode because, like, Witch was fine, but this episode was, like, actively bad and insulting at times. Like, it felt like a bad B movie, not even B movie, like a Troika movie from the early 90s, except, not redeemable in any way.
Do you mean Trauma or is there a Troika?
Trauma.
Yeah,
Sorry, Trauma.
What is Troika? I know that word.
I probably took it from some video game or something.
Is that what a deer holds?
Yeah, you know what? Let's go with that.
Rayan, how'd you like it? How'd you like the harrowing tale of the kids who find their teacher hot, but she's a monster?
I mean, I really didn't hate it, but it was bad for sure. It was very bad, and it was a really bad writing and bad to look at. And everything that happened was so funny. Like, I laughed a lot, and I know that was not the point. I just found, like, their attempt at this, like, piecing together this story that was already bad very funny. But when it was over, I was not upset that I watched it.
Yeah, you definitely at one point looked over at me, and you were like, am I supposed to be laughing at this?
Yeah.
And I just laughed and said no.
Yeah, in a weird way, I felt a little bit the opposite, where at the time, while I was watching it, I was trying to convince myself, like, oh, this can't be fun. It's sucky, but it's kind of fun because it's so stupid. And as soon as the credits hit, I'm like, wow, can you imagine if I, like, didn't know that this show was good? Why in God's name would I ever watch another one?
Yeah.
It
truly couldn't have been more Goosebumpsy. Like, with all of the egg sacs, like, that was more Goosebumps than Goosebumps.
Yeah, well, I even kind of felt like that at the end when I had that feeling in my soul of like, there is literally no reason to watch one more of these. I think they kind of knew I would feel that way. So that final shot of just like, oh, but there's still mantis eggs in the school. But so what? Like, that's peak Goosebumps, where it's like a thing happens and it has no effect and it means nothing and it never.
I do hope that happens every episode, that there's always that thing at the end that's like, but wait.
Yeah, I remember X-Files used to do that all the time too. The like, yeah, or is it ending?
Yeah.
For me, yeah. Okay, well, it was bad. It was very bad. I hated it. There were gigantic plot holes. Like, plot holes, I don't even know if I call it plot holes as much as people behaving in ways that made no sense. Like, the writing was terrible. It was written by David Greenwalt, too, I think, which is a name that comes up a lot. I think he was involved in the show, like, all the way through.
Yeah, I think he was, like, the co-guy for Angel. Yeah, like, I haven't actually been paying attention to the names, but yeah, if it was him, he gets good later. Yeah,
so it was surprising that it was him because this episode was so bad. And I'm sure we'll get into the details. I have lots of notes, but yeah, even The Witch, I was like, didn't love it, but I was like you said, I accepted it. But this one, I deny. I recuse this one. It's not my Buffy.
Yeah, because I guess too, it starts to establish a pattern, right? Where last week it's like, oh, well, hey, again, it's the first regular weekly episode. Like, got to give them a chance to stumble a little. And then this one, and yeah, like I know I've said it before, but Like this one, I don't even have a lot of notes for and stuff because it's just lame. The next one is so bad. I got thoughts about like, you could teach this in school of how much this sucks. Like they're doing things you should never do. So look forward to that. But the good news is when I was looking forward a little, after next week, I think it stabilizes. I mean, it just never gets this bad again, I think.
Wait, so there's one more really bad one.
Yeah, next week is the worst ever.
Great.
Okay.
In fact, let me bring that up right now. So that's an idea I was thinking I could just loosely kind of keep track of as we go. We can come up with things as we go. Just a little tally of best and worsts of this show. So for instance, these are just off the top of my head. The worst thing Buffy has said is I'm so mentally challenged. And, we'll just keep an eye on it. If she says anything worse than that, that'll become the new champ.
Okay.
Worst thing Willow said isn't that bad, but just after they make a Nazi joke and she says, Heil.
Right.
It's more just
right.
a strange thing to say. Worst special effect is, so the teacher in this episode, her name is Miss French, and she's secretly a praying mantis. And at one point, her head spins around 360 degrees. And it's like, I don't think I think that's going to be the champ for the rest of the show, worst special effect, because that was insane.
Yeah. I mean, technically it was only 180 degrees, but still very bad.
Oh, she didn't go the whole way,
No.
right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I watched this like 3 weeks ago, so you guys are going to have to help me out a little.
Yeah.
Well, we don't
remembering
know.
this shit.
We only saw 180. She might have gone the whole way around afterwards.
Well, no, there was a line in there because, I mean, maybe we'll get into this later, but this is another thing that really bothered me is, so Buffy witnessed her spin 180 degrees, and then when Buffy was researching about bugs, she's like, well, praying mantises can spin their heads 180 degrees, so she must be a praying mantis. And I was like,
yes.
What an insane leap of logic that was.
And that's too like the perfect. I don't know how you'd fix it, but when your effect is that bad, just don't do it. Like it would literally be better for Buffy to just say, like whisper to herself, like, oh my God, her head is spun 180 degrees. Like as bad as that would be, just anything to not show that effect because it's fucking nuts.
And they actually do that in this episode where later in the episode, Buffy jumps down in the sewer to find the claw vampire guy. And there's an off-screen fight scene where all you hear is the sounds of the fight scene happening. And it's very much like, we didn't have the budget or time to do this. And it's funny if we do it this way.
Yeah, spent all their money on Miss French's spinning head. It's just terrible.
Oh, don't forget her entire puppet.
And then, as a sneak preview for next week, I've already slotted in worst episode is the next episode, and worst character is the guy they introduce next episode. So look forward to that.
Great.
That's a little teaser.
Awesome.
So we got this teacher at school who we've never met before, and that's fine because we'll never meet him again, who encourages Buffy, sees past her facade of being a cheerleader, airhead. And he's like, no, I can see that you have some smarts and you could be a great student and go great places. And he's immediately eaten by a giant praying mantis. so there's our opening. It's like, well, hope you didn't enjoy that pep talk too much, Buffy. I guess you need to find another father figure. Luckily, Giles is in the library right now.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that we've skipped over the very beginning of the episode where Xander was having a dream or a daydream where he was staking a vampire at the bronze, jumped up on stage and did a sick guitar solo.
I hate Xander so much right now. This whole episode, I was like, I hate this man. I hate him so much. He's such a piece of shit.
That's from here on in, like I'm going to stay current with you guys, like watch the episodes as you guys do. But like I said, I watched this one like 3 weeks ago and I forgot that happened. That was insane how bad that was.
It was so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they kind of touched on the fact that he's in love with Buffy.
He is?
Yeah.
We knew.
So, yeah, speaking of Xander, so the dead schlumpy teacher, he gets replaced with a hot female teacher, Miss French, and Xander's immediately smitten with her because he's quite pathetic. And then this cool guy shows up who is a constant thorn in Xander's side all episode of like, Xander tries to be cool, but an actual cool guy is constantly out-cooling him and making him feel dorky. David Greenwald, you did it again. You fucking...
Yeah.
Like, it's so bad. Like it's weird with Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like, they're written for a young audience, so there's just kind of a baseline of lameness. But things that lame and just in-your-face shitty don't even happen in Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like, there wouldn't just be some cool guy who's constantly making people feel bad.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about this one is like, yeah, it was very much like Are You Afraid of the Dark? But then they also started weaving in some of the overarching like stuff. The angel stuff kind of came in more, and a lot of the like Buffy going hunting for vampires in the cemetery and stuff, which is like a major thing of the overall Slayer stuff. So we had that still. We had some like actual development, but then also it was like this monster of the week thing.
Yeah, it's very false advertising. If you were watching this, you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, give me these vampires. And then there's two horrible episodes where there's no vampires, and this is just like a random monster show.
It must have been a very bold move to be like, after the first season, to be like, we're completely changing the tone and everything of this show, like re-aiming the canon to like somewhere else and committing to it, because it must have been like a bold thing, like, but it worked.
Yeah, I think hopefully they just saw they needed to.
Yeah, I would be kind of interested to see what ratings and shit were like and what the network thought. Like, maybe it was a do or die. Maybe it's like, you know, we'll give you one more season, but get your shit together. Or maybe the network was like, what? We asked for a dumb Buffy show. You gave us a dumb Buffy show. Why are you trying to make it more than this? This is fine. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Speaking, though, of Angel and vampires in general, yeah, I missed this note. Angel gives Buffy a cryptic warning, just, you know, bad things are a-brewing.
What a dumb fucking conversation that was. I rewinded it because I was like, was there any point to this?
Well, you know what the point was, is that Angel gives Buffy his cool leather jacket, and it's so cool.
He's so dreamy.
Yeah. But hey, can I say something about that conversation that was such a glaring oversight? Did you guys notice it?
I don't know.
Actually, I took a photo on my phone that I'll send to our group chat later. But when he's talking to her, he's wearing like a tank top, like a tight white tank top, and he's clearly wearing a crucifix under it. You can see it as clear as day. And I was like, we all know he's a vampire. He can't wear it.
I didn't catch that.
Man, that reminds me, back in the day, I remember that somebody was keeping a little on their Angel Fire page or whatever. It was like a tally of all the times that Angel stands in direct sunlight because they just weren't paying attention. It's a lot of times.
That's great.
Yeah. Add that to the tally. If you had like times Angel is clearly... I mean, they knew he was a vampire at this point, right? They didn't just decide on that halfway through the season.
I mean, surely they must have known at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of weird stuff. They do retcon Angel quite a bit. Like, I won't give away stuff too much, but like when Darla shows up here, she has nothing to do with Angel, but later she totally does. And when they explain, like, basically just that, like, so Angel's redemption thing is like, he gets his soul back. He feels real bad about all the bad stuff he did. But they're like, hey, but if you can help this girl, this Slayer girl, maybe you can redeem yourself. But when he shows up in this show, I don't think they even knew why he was there, because he's the coolest guy in the world. He's not a tormented vampire who's racked with guilt. He's just like, fuck, man, you look pretty cool. Do you want a leather jacket? Yes, don't think about making out with me too much. Keep your eyes on the prize, 'cause shit's going down. Like, he's just so cool.
Bones was so smoldery in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is young Bones.
Was he Bones or is the girl Bones? The Deschanel girl Bones?
The girl is Bones. I'm pretty sure he's Booth.
Bones and Booth.
He's not even Bones. I've never seen Bones.
Neither have
It's
I.
Bones.
I never saw Castle either. I feel like I'm letting down all my Joss Whedon actors.
He was actually Castle.
So Miss French, in case we're not connecting dots here, she's openly obsessed with the beauty of the praying mantis, because she is a mantis, because early Buffy is fucking garbage. Like, couldn't be less subtle. Okay, but this is kind of funny. I'll give them credit for this. The way that they find the headless teacher that got killed is because Cordelia has to get her medically prescribed lunch, which she keeps in the lunchroom. Like, she just is walking past all the lunch ladies like, I'm just here to get my medically prescribed lunch. Oh my god. Fucking headless teacher.
Why are all the headless people in lockers?
Yeah,
This is just their go-to.
Yeah.
I'd say though they're upping their game a little bit as far as reactions to dead people. Like, they react a little. There's a little bit of fallout at least.
Yeah, I have a note for that too. She reacted, and then they cut to like the library where they were all like, oh my god, our teacher's dead. Like, they were actually affected by a death this time for the first time. So that's nice. That was nice to see.
I didn't know if it was real or not. Like, I asked Julian, is that him? I didn't know if it was a dummy or a setup, or like, I can't tell. I can't tell if it's real or not.
I assume he's still alive. Like, the actor.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. I was so worried.
So yeah, Julie mentioned earlier this weird vampire with the knife hand. And yeah, this is weird because it's like, I think it's a little fledgling attempt at Buffy cleverness, but it's just too much going on and too confusing that on top of the praying mantis lady, there's this vampire who, instead of a hand, has a knife, and I guess he's all badass. But then he bumps into Miss French out in the world, and he's scared of her. So it's like, oh my God, something's clearly going on with Miss French because vampires are scared of her. And I'm just going to jump ahead a bit. What they do with this knife guy, the only reason he's in this episode is Buffy drags him around town till she finds the house that he's scared of. And that's how she knows that that's Miss French's house, because the vampire's scared to be there. And I'm like, I guess that's kind of like, that feels like a little Buffy-ish, that like just a funny, bizarre way to use a villain of like drag him around till he's scared. But man, this whole thing just didn't work at all. It's just such a weird contortions to go through. Here's a second bad guy, and we're going to use him as a metal detector for evil. And it's just like, what the fuck is this?
And just how impractical it is. Like, how big is this town? Do we even know she lives in this town? She could live in this next town over. And like, how can you possibly walk someone around every single neighborhood? It's just like really bothered me.
Well, it feels like that's why they put her in there, because it was, or put him in there because they were like, oh, Miss French's house is going to be the actual Miss French, this sweet old lady. And now it's like, we have absolutely zero way to find out who this person is. Ah, yes. Knife man, metal detector.
His name is Knife Handsman. And rest in peace, big man.
Yeah, also, he didn't dust when he got staked.
Yeah, he didn't. Maybe it was just a guy.
He's just the goth kid who pretends he's a vampire or whatever. So of course he's scared. He's scared of everyone. He's just scared of Miss French because he's scared of pretty ladies.
And that's so stupid.
He just has a special.
Like, we're supposed to buy that, like, this praying mantis demon or whatever is so scary that even the vampires are scared of them.
I think you mean she-mantis or virgin thief.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
She-mantis, yeah.
Maybe everyone's so scared because they all haven't put their dicks in anything, so they're just afraid to be caught.
We learned that Xander's full name is Alexander Lavelle Harris, which I just thought was, I don't know, I just didn't know that, so now I know. I can't remember how we learned. I think he just said it.
Okay. He was so embarrassed about Lavelle. He's like, oh no, it's blame my mom. But you go willingly by Xander and you're not embarrassed of that?
And he brought it up too, right? It's like, oh, so just...
Well, he was under her pheromone spell, which thank God they made it pheromones, because for a while I was like, these boys are behaving like so crazy. Towards, they're all like, this teacher wants to fuck me and we're fighting over her, and I was like, this is so weird. Thankfully they were like kind of possessed a little, like that at least made some sense.
Julian did have to say that to me because I was getting so mad about everything Xander was doing. I was like, what an idiot, I hate him. And Julian's like, it's pheromones, Ryan. Fine.
I say that all the time. I don't know if I was just like preconditioned to know it was a pheromones thing before it was revealed it was pheromones, because like I don't know how many like pheromones episodes of sci-fi shows I've seen at this point.
Yeah,
but like
this is a thing?
This is a thing.
Do pheromones explain her accent? Because what was that?
Yes! I was like, what is this voice? So Julian looked it up because I was like, I don't know, it's almost British, almost French, definitely Scandinavian in some way. And Julian looked it up. What was it?
It was she's Dutch South African.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just her speaking voice, or was she like putting an accent on?
If I had to guess, that's probably your speaking voice.
Okay.
Yeah, it's and once you said that, it made sense because Dutch I don't think is Scandinavian, but it's adjacent.
That's like a weird mix because Dutch people have a super neutral accent, like their English is great, and South Africa is like South Africa. Like it's just weird. It's hard to even do.
Well, that's kind of what her voice was. It was like mostly normal and then a little bit cursive.
So I think I missed the thing about the pheromones too. Honestly, I think I just wasn't paying attention. Like usually I would, if I have something to write down about the show, I would pause it and write it down with the earlier episodes, but I distinctly remember with this one, I just let it roll while I was writing, so I might have missed that. But anyway, Xander follows, it's like following the scent from a pie. He goes to Miss French's place, and the cool guy, whose name I didn't write down because who gives a shit, he's already there. He's
Blaine.
Oh, jeez. So he got trapped by Miss French yesterday, so now it's like, oh no, they're both trapped in the Mantis Lady's house. And then while the gang is researching the bug lady, that's when they learn that she only eats virgins. Oh. Hilarious.
She can tell.
Oh, God.
Fuck you, Xander. fucking loser.
My last note of my whole note here is LOL, boys being virgins.
Yeah, like, I mean, again, this is a super common trope of every single teen movie and teen show and everything. And it's just like, dude, like, granted, I get that I'm a gigantic loser, but I didn't get laid till I was like 24.
It's pretty normal. Like, I guess it is like the way that especially guys in high school are like ribbing on each other and saying stuff like that, but it is pretty normal to not have sex in high school. I know they were masking it with it being like this weird pheromones thing and she's not an actual teacher, but the whole like teacher being horny for students was just so creepy.
Yeah,
and it
so
felt
creepy.
like it was normalized.
Yeah.
Like it just felt like, yeah, this is a normal thing that shows did at this time.
Well, there was that, like, this is around the time there was that case of, like, that female teacher that was, like, sleeping with, like, her students or whatever. And there was the general vibe that it was like, oh, those students are so cool.
So lucky.
Yeah, like lucky guys, where it was like, no, it's actually an assault and it's super creepy.
There was shit like that at my high school too, because like teachers can be super young when they're fresh out of school. And there was one teacher in my high school, there was a couple that we were like, what are you doing? And like this one teacher would always sit on her desk and she always wore tight short skirts and we're like, lady, come on. But this other teacher was always spending her time with the star musical child. And they were just spending all their time together. And she used to give him rides everywhere, and they were always alone. And the year he graduated from high school, they were a couple.
Wow.
Yeah. So fucked up.
Isn't that weird, though? Because I had this novel I was writing back at this time, actually, when Buffy was still airing. And one of the characters was the hot teacher who, you know, has the hots for this kid in the school. And I remember at one point, I even researched it a bit, and there's tons of stories. Like, it really is common enough for female teachers to date students, but I still took that character out of the story because I'm like, I don't care that this really happens. It feels fake. It just doesn't feel like a real thing. Like, I feel like it would be corny for me to put this in this story.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least Buffy's got the pheromones. They explain everything. It's probably how she got the job. I like that pheromone thing. Like, it probably explains all of this nonsense. So
Yeah.
fucking go with it. So then my next note is, fucking Buffy finds the vampire with the metal hand, drags her around town to find Miss French's house. So we're all caught up now. Then she kills it. So fuck that guy. Yeah, so that whole thing we already discussed. A little awkward. Buffy fights the big bug. So what is the deal with her? She just transforms whenever she wants to, or she transforms right before she eats a young virgin boy? How does she turn back? Like, this is always a problem with me in werewolf movies, too. I can see you turning once, but you don't turn back into Miss French after you're a giant mantis monster.
So there was a moment where she cornered Xander in the basement. And then the next scene it comes to is Xander being like tied up and strapped in, or like strapped up with these leather straps on him. And she was still in mantis form. So how did she do that?
Carefully tying these little knots with her pincer arms. See, like that, shit like that would have saved it. And like, you know, later on in the show, that might not be a joke they would do, but they might, you know, like, if you're going to have a monster that's a mantis creature, go for a comedy episode. Don't try to take this seriously. But at this point, it's just a weird mess of like, is this serious? Is this a joke? Who knows and who cares? Like, what is this shit?
And speaking of that, when Xander is in the prison with Blaine, and then Blaine is describing like what she's doing, what she's going to do, and then he says, and the worst part is she mates with you. What does that mean? Does anyone know what? Was that clear to anyone?
They clearly never explained what he specifically meant by that.
Because they said she puts down eggs and then she finds someone to fertilize them. So what does that mean? He's like just jacking off onto the eggs?
Yeah, probably.
I wasn't clear, but he made it sound like then she mates with you, which also sounds like bad, like sounds like a sexual assault, and we don't want to hear about that.
Yeah, I thought it would be like she was impregnating him with her mantis babies or something.
But it was like kind of played as a joke.
I mean, that's what I thought. I was just picturing mantis sex.
Yeah, maybe again they were just like, because it's still a new writer's room and stuff, maybe they were all just too embarrassed to ask him what he meant. Just like, whatever.
Yeah. This guy clearly knows how mantises mates, so let's not ask.
So again, my notes fucking suck for this episode. Are just Buffy fights the big bug, Didn't she use like hairspray or something? Light it on fire?
No, bug spray.
Bug spray. Oh.
She didn't light it on fire. She was just spraying him with like Raid or whatever, or spraying her. But that fight scene was so bad.
Yeah.
It was like so clunky, and the costume was just like a solid mass of rubber that was like immovable, and it was like the fight scene was just all over the place and not like suspenseful at all.
I don't know if I missed it from previous episodes, but the like grunt noises during all the fights are, first of all, do you think they're put in later?
No.
Because it sounds like it.
Yeah, was that okay? No, I don't have the note for this one. I made the note for the next one, but yeah, just that the punch noises at this juncture are really bad. They don't even have like 2 or 3. It's the same little punch sound over and over. It's fucking terrible.
And they just, I don't know if I'm just, being gross, but they're just, I'm like, for sure young boys are getting turned on by this, right? Like, she's Sarah Michelle Gellar, and she's grunting.
I don't think those grunts go away, if I remember correctly. Like, Buffy's fights were always pretty grunty.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes, because I noticed the next episode after this, like she does a flip and it makes a little sound, like a little whoosh sound. And I'm like, man, these sound effects are just terrible. But I don't know if they do get much better. I mean, we'll see. I know they get better, but it is still like, this is the total 90s Xena influence of just like
I just want to go have a fight so I can see what kind of noises I would make.
Yeah, well, I mean, soon after this, like a couple years after this, Fight Club came out, and I really think Fight Club kind of revolutionized that meat packing thud of what it really sounds like to punch somebody. But until then, nobody gave a fuck. They were just like these stupid, I mean, it probably just comes from like Hong Kong action films and stuff, but yeah, it sounds very lame these days. So yeah, after they fight the big bug, or Buffy fights the bug, Xander and cool guy Blaine are saved, and that's when Willow reveals like, oh yeah, and it's so messed up that she only ate virgins. Only virgins were targeted, and they're just like, oh, awkward. I'm not a... Although, as weird as it is to just like make these constant virgin jokes, it's pretty harmless. It's like, yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal. Compared to over on our sibling podcast, Blossom Buddies, where Craig and Jason are watching Blossom, they've got a constant tally of like gay jokes.
Oh yeah,
I bet.
Unbelievable amount of times that Six makes gay jokes. So I mean, compared to that, Buffy's doing all right. I have virgin jokes. It's low hanging fruit, but
Yeah, I'll take that.
And on that note of Willow kind of commenting on Xander, we got the first kind of reveal that Willow is into Xander in this episode too.
Yes, I was gonna like be like, this must happen, or make my, hey, I've never seen this show, is this gonna happen? Because she's like, Xander's adorable smile. I'm like, this is random.
now that Xander's boyfriend Jesse is out of the way, finally Willow can make her move. I guess also before the episode ends, Angel lets Buffy keep his cool jacket. He's so cool.
Oh, he's so cool.
You look better in it. It looks better on you.
The note that I have is, here comes Angel smoldering up the place.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, I guess we don't know yet that he's a vampire, but he clearly only wears that cool jacket so he can coolly give it to people and act cool, because he doesn't get cold. He doesn't have circulation. He's a vampire. He doesn't need his jacket.
Do you think he just has like a closet of a bunch of those jackets that he just gives out to random people?
Yeah. And that is one thing. I mean, this is common in all vampire fiction, I guess, but it is pretty weird that he's like 400 years old and she's like 16, and he's just like, yeah, man. And in Twilight, all this shit, it's always this way, but it's just fucking weird. Like, take my jacket. It's cool. I look young, but man, I'm not. I'm fucking real old.
I will say I'm very excited to find out more about him, because I don't know. Like, I don't know his story. I don't understand why he's on her side. So
anyway, there's that episode down.
nice. That was easy.
I guess we can pretty safely say that does Buffy suck? This week it does.
And they left us with a little cliffhanger, maybe this praying mantis is going to be a constant theme throughout the 7 seasons of this show.
Dear God.
Those eggs are there, they hatch, just more teachers, more students getting kidnapped.
Do you think a show about praying mantises could be good?
Nope.
Yeah, this was a backdoor pilot to the fucking Mantis show. Where all the lead characters are mantises and they fuck this episode. This sucks.
Yeah, next week it'll be better. Next week will be great.
Oh, and let me give a little sneak preview too of just to make sure everybody listens to the next episode, even though the episode of the show sucks. But I'm working on a little mini project where the character that does get introduced next episode, they say his name so many times that I was losing my mind. So I'm making a supercut of every time they say his name. And it's so many times. It's going to be like 2 minutes long. It's crazy how many times they say this fucking idiot's name. So I look forward to that.
Nice. So, Julian.
Ella.
Are we ready to wrap it up with our classic final line?
Oh yeah, I got it prepared already.
All right, baby, shoot.
Hey, but sometimes Buffy does suck, but what we don't know, what we probably actually do already know, is that maybe the next Buffy will not suck as much as this Buffy did suck. It's gotta be good sometime.
Eloquent.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
I'm really glad you're okay. It's so unfair how she only went after virgins.
What?